right, well, it looks like tariffs on most Canadian goods are coming sooner than we thought. Here is the social media post this morning from President Trump. He said that drugs are still pouring into our country from Mexico and Canada at very high and unacceptable levels. He again references fentanyl. And he says, quote, the proposed tariffs scheduled to go into effect on March 4th will indeed go into effect as scheduled. Well, yesterday, all signs pointed to another month of a delay on these tariffs. So this just really adds to the confusion. In a moment, we'll get some analysis on the impact, what this means with our close relationship with Canada. First, though, truth be told tonight, some fact-checking is needed on the president's claim. Now, there is no evidence that fentanyl is, in fact, pouring across the border with Canada. Customs and Border Protection keeps track of everything that gets seized. And I want to show you some of the numbers. So let's start back in June. CBP seized 6 pounds of fentanyl along the northern border. That peaked at 17 pounds in July before then plunging to around a pound in August. The total went up and down a little bit in September, October, November, before big declines in December and January. In fact, last month, CBP seized only 0.03 pounds of fentanyl along the entire border with Canada. Now, if we add up all those 8 months, it's just under 42 pounds of fentanyl from the Canadian border. Compare that to what's on the left side of your screen. In that same 8-month period, CBP seized more than 13,000 pounds of fentanyl from the Mexican border. And we should point out January also had the lowest amount at the Mexican border since June of 2022, so also making some progress there, but there's just no comparison. The northern border makes up 0.3% of the fentanyl that's seized. The border with Mexico makes up 99.7%. Jerry Zremski is the longtime Washington bureau chief for the Buffalo News, director of the local news network at the University of Maryland's College of Journalism, and he joins me live from the D.C. area tonight. Jerry, it's always great to get your insight on these things, and I just want to start because I feel like we've gone through this song and dance a few times, and at the last moment there's been a pause, but it really does look like these tariffs are going to take effect on Monday. Is that what you're hearing from Washington, and how concerned are people there?
I think what I'm hearing is that people aren't going to be sure about what happens until Monday. And the reason for that is the president has gone back and forth on this a number of times now, and there's no reason to believe that he wouldn't do it again. It seems to people here that what he's looking for are some sort of concessions from both Mexico and Canada. He may have gotten those concessions from Mexico today in that Mexico agreed to release a lot of arrested drug felons who are involved in the cartels that ship drugs to the U.S. I don't know, and no one seems to know exactly what he wants out of Canada. It's just very, very strange looking at those statistics that you point out. He keeps talking about the waves of fentanyl coming in from Canada, but it's just not coming in. It's just not happening. But clearly, he wants some sort of a concession from Canada before lifting this threat of tariffs.
Obviously, there are people who are in support of tariffs and who support what the president is doing here, but a lot of business folks and just regular people here in Western New York are very concerned, again, because of how important the relationship is between our region and Southern Ontario. What are you hearing from folks here who are concerned, especially about our region and the impact?
I think there's been a consistent feeling of angst ever since Donald Trump started proposing these tariffs, because it would have a terrible economic impact on any border community that's well integrated into the country on the other side of the border, as the Buffalo area is. The auto industry in Western New York is totally integrated in with plants in Canada, so it would affect the auto industry. It would affect all those products that you buy from Canada. So yeah, your Labatt's and your Molson would be more expensive all of a sudden. It would be a real shock to the system, I think, of the economy of Western New York. And people are concerned about it, and I think they're justifiably concerned about it.
Finally, Jerry, I'm almost out of time, but what about lawmakers from Western New York, especially Republican lawmakers? How worried are they that they're going to have to deal with the fallout if we see a bad impact from these tariffs?
Well, I think that Republican lawmakers from Western New York have really been busy on other things, to be frank about it. They just passed a big budget resolution this week, and they're getting lots and lots of calls to their offices about the various layoffs in the federal government and funding glitches, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that our lawmakers are kind of waiting and seeing, too. I think everybody wants to wait and see, does this really happen next week?
We'll be following it very closely. Always appreciate your insight, Jerry Zremski with the Buffalo News and the University of Maryland. Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you.